Brands and logos on discarded materials, an IP heads up for upcycle artists. Picture this. An upcycle artist spends weeks crafting a stunning art piece from deconstructed luxury brand packaging, beautifully aesthetic, genuinely creative, and nicely crafted. They list it online. Within days, they receive a legal notice from the brand's IP, intellectual property, team. The material was discarded. The artist found it. They transformed it. So how did they end up in legal trouble? This presents particularly critical concerns for upcycle artists whose works are inherently about giving discarded materials new life, but those materials often carry someone else's intellectual property. While IP law varies from country to country and case to case, and without giving legal advice, the goal here is to make sure that as upcycle artists and industry professionals, we're walking into this space with our eyes open. Understanding where these risks come from is part of working in this space seriously and sustainably. Key IP risks with discarded materials. The central tension lies in the fact that working with found objects and reclaimed materials is at the very heart of upcycle art. But here's something that isn't always obvious: discarded is not IP-free. When you pick up a material that carries a trademarked logo, a copyrighted distinctive design, or a patented element, you're picking up the physical object, but the intellectual property attached to it doesn't get discarded along with it. So the moment that element remains visible and recognizable in your finished piece, it can potentially fall under the original rights holder's IP protection. The key areas of infringement risk, particularly high for commercial sales, are: trademark risk. A trademark is a legally protected word, phrase, symbol, or design that identifies the source of goods or services. It separates one brand from all others in the market. When a recognizable brand logo or name appears on your upcycled work, there's a risk that buyers could be misled into believing the original brand endorsed, sponsored, or collaborated on the piece. A related concern, called trademark dilution, arises where association with modified or repurposed goods is seen as damaging to the brand's reputation, regardless of your intent. Copyright risk. Copyright is a legal right that automatically protects original creative works the moment they are fixed in a tangible medium of expression, such as literary works, musical works, digital content, and visual and artistic works. Many of the design elements on branded materials, patterns, illustrations, graphic treatments, even some typographic arrangements, are protected by copyright as original artistic works. When these elements are incorporated into a new piece, even through transformation, the result could technically be considered an unauthorized derivative work. The original creator's rights extend into that territory. Together, these risk areas make the use of branded materials one of the more legally complex aspects of upcycle practice, and one the industry doesn't always discuss openly enough. Practical ways to reduce your risk. To minimize infringement risk when upcycling reclaimed materials that contain other brands' IP elements, there are several practical precautions worth building into your practice. Logo and design alteration. The most straightforward strategy is to remove, cover, or significantly alter any identifiable logos or branded elements wherever possible. This is the lowest risk path, as the protected element is no longer recognizable in the finished work. Creative transformation. Where removal isn't possible or doesn't fit the creative direction, the degree of transformation matters enormously. Aim to add substantial new creative expression that changes the context, meaning, and visual identity of the original elements, to avoid confusion about endorsement or brand affiliation. Works that clearly read as new creations, rather than modified versions of original branded items, carry a different weight. Combining materials from multiple sources, for instance, tends to push a piece further into genuinely new creative territory. Use explicit disclaimers. Clearly state on product tags, websites, and marketing materials that the product is an upcycled item that is not affiliated with, endorsed by, or sponsored by the original brand. An important habit that directly addresses the consumer confusion concern that sits at the heart of trademark risk. Do not market as genuine. Never market an upcycled item as a genuine branded or designer item. Avoid using brand names in product titles. For example, upcycled designer denim tote is a very different claim to genuine Louis Vuitton tote. The first describes your process, the second makes a false claim about the product's origin, which moves well beyond a gray area. The bigger picture. Now that we've covered what to do in practice, it's worth stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, some contextual wisdom that helps you make smarter decisions over time. Fair use, a defense, not a free pass. In some jurisdictions, particularly the United States, transformative use of copyrighted material can be a legal defense if the new work fundamentally reimagines, comments on, or parodies the original. But it's important to note, it is a defense you raise in court, not a protection you have in advance. It's assessed case by case, never guaranteed, and the rules differ between countries, so it's not something to lean on as a safety net in your everyday practice. The cost of being right. The reality that doesn't get talked about enough is the difference between winning and being able to afford to fight. Even if your work is legally defensible, a dispute with a large brand usually means legal costs, time, and stress that most independent artists simply cannot justify absorbing. Avoiding the confrontation altogether is almost always the smarter outcome. Commercial versus non-commercial use. How your work is used affects your risk exposure. Commercial use, selling pieces, running a product line, naturally invites a higher level of scrutiny than non-commercial artistic practice. But this isn't a simple on-off switch. Factors such as context, intent, and the degree of transformation can shift the risk profile. A fine art piece in a gallery, or an installation exploring consumer culture within an educational context, differs significantly from a commercial product line, and the more commercially active your practice, the more thoughtful you need to be. The opportunity. Think ahead, not after. The most forward-thinking artists aren't just managing risk, they're turning it into opportunity. Approaching a brand proactively, exploring a licensing arrangement, or developing a co-branding partnership reframes the entire conversation. The Warhol and Campbell's relationship and the Adidas Parley collaboration both show what's possible when the conversation starts early and in good faith. Think ahead, not after. Upcycle art is one of the most creative and culturally relevant practices in the contemporary art and design world. The goal here isn't to put limits on creativity, it's to make sure that creativity is built on informed decisions and grows on solid footing. Have you come across IP issues in your practice? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. UAACS, Upcycle Art and Craft Society. When creativity meets sustainability.